All right. On to 60-second questions. Mr. Hutchinson, you go first. Your potential opponent, if you were making it through the primary, Mike Ross recently released his plan to make pre-K available to every 4-year-old in Arkansas by 2025. His proposal, total investment of $37.48 million to accomplish this. My question to you is pre-K still a viable solution? If not, what do you propose? 60 seconds.
I oppose Mike Ross's plan. I do believe that we should have pre-K education is important. Kindergarten education is important, and the early start is important. We have a program right now in Arkansas that applies up to 200% of poverty for those that want to send their children to pre-K education. The state will pay for it up to 200% of poverty. He wants to expand that up to 400% of poverty, and the problem is we're not even funding the existing program now. So if we cannot even fund the existing program under Governor Beebe's leadership, why should we expand a program up to 400% of poverty, which is 59,000? Actually, it's 300% of poverty. So it's a new government program that we cannot afford. We need to fund our existing program and extend pre-K education in that poverty arena. That is very important.
Thank you. Same question to you, Mr. Coleman. 60 seconds.
Well, call me an old-fashioned grandfather. I just think we need to let our kids be kids as long as possible, and we need to let parents be parents as long as possible. The state of education started to free pre-K 4-year-olds in 1998. They spent $146 million a year providing pre-K 4 education for free for all 4-year-olds at a cost of $7,400 a student for the last 15 years. Not only have they seen no improvement in their scores, especially in 4th grade reading, which is where you start measuring, they've actually dropped in Oklahoma from 4 points above the national average to dead last in National Association for Educational Progress. I don't see the data that supports the effectiveness of the program. Let's show me some data that shows that it's effective. Let's look at it again. But fundamentally, let's let our kids be kids as long as possible, folks, and let them have parents as long as possible.
All right, Mr. Coleman, next question goes to you. Why do you believe your plan to improve the Arkansas economy is better than your opponent's?
Well, I think I have a plan. What I proposed is not just simply a tax cut for every Arkansan in Arkansas, but I've proposed definite and concrete steps that will let us start revitalizing the economy of Arkansas. I've described some of them. One of them I haven't talked about is my educational plan, where we've got to restore vocational and technical training to Arkansas students. 20 years ago, I'm told we had 23 vocational and technical schools in Arkansas. Now I'm told that we have 3, and you have to be in prison to go to one of them. And at the same time, folks, we have a critical skilled labor shortage in Arkansas. I really go to any town in Arkansas where some employer doesn't walk up to me and say, I've got jobs, if you can bring me somebody who can operate a machine. We've got to do something fundamental as returning shop, and I use that term generically. We've got to do something as fundamental as returning shop to high school. Let's give our children a chance to choose a career path that may not include a 4-year degree.
Mr. Hutchinson.
Well, both Curtis and my plan are much better than Mike Ross's plan. That's the important point. But in terms of a contrast between ours, I'll just say that my plan is realistic. It is something that we can get passed through the legislature. It is something that will help us to grow our industry in Arkansas, and that is unique also because it will give us an edge in technology education here in this state that will allow us to move forward and lead this nation rather than lag behind. And so a unique opportunity with my plan to lower taxes, increase education and technology, enhance jobs, and it's very realistic as to how doable it is in the first year, and then we build on that. You bet, I'd like to reduce a lot of the taxes that Curtis has talked about, but let's start. We have to have a first priority, and I've outlined that. It is doable, we can do it, and then we can go from there.
Mr. Hutchinson, first question goes to you. 60 seconds. What distinguishes you from your general election opponents? If Mike Ross gets the nomination, what distinguishes you from him?
He's pro-choice, I'm pro-life. He supported a public option health care coming out of the Commerce Committee while I was traveling this state opposing it. I left Congress with a balanced budget. He left Congress with trillions of dollars in deficit and debt in our country. And so there's huge differences between us. I think you ask a fundamental question: who has the best opportunity to restrain overzealous regulators in this state that hamper business? Let me tell you, it'll be by a Hutchinson administration, not by a Mike Ross administration. Huge differences between us, and most importantly, in our tax plan, mine actually reduces that high marginal rate of taxes when his does not. He came out with a $500 million tax plan. I thought the liberals would go crazy, but they didn't, because nobody believed he'd do it anyway. And so, but in the end, his did not reduce the marginal rates, mine does. Huge differences between it. We can make that case this fall.
Mr. Coleman, same question to you.
Well, I'm trying to figure out something we have in common. I will tell you that fundamentally the difference between me and Mr. Ross is that he believes government's the solution. I believe government's the problem. And I think that we got to get government off your back, out of your faces, out of your pocketbooks. He thinks that we got to put government more in your life. It's got to be more intrusive in your life. He thinks government's the solution, folks. Not only is he pro-choice and I'm pro-life, but man, I'm limited government. I'm for smaller government. I believe the more local government is, the better government is. I believe the less Little Rock controls your life, the better your life's going to be. And I think those are the most fundamental differences. And I think that my opinion and my approach to government will be to make government as non-invasive, as non-essential, and as non-intrusive, and as inexpensive as possible. And I think Mike Ross will differ directly oppositely in every one of those points from where I stand.
Mr. Coleman, next question goes to you, and it's 90 seconds. Explain how your experience as an Arkansas businessman will aid you as governor of Arkansas.
Well, I described some of that a little bit earlier today as probably one of the most character-defining places in our lives. But I think what we went through in our building our company, and by the way, the government that threatened us and hurt us so badly was our federal government and the Washington, D.C. government. And we're regulated by almost every federal bureaucracy that has an acronym. But I think it's understanding what it's like to have to make a payroll, to figure out how to keep the doors open, how to make a profit, how to provide health insurance for your employees, and living with that. It's not simply investing in a company, it's living in that company. It's having the responsibility, the profitability of that company squarely on your shoulders and squarely on your back. It's kind of like the difference between me telling a mother what it's like to have a baby and describing it from a book. If I start telling you what it's like to have a baby, I don't know what I'm talking about. And you know what else? I don't want to know what I'm talking about.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Hutchinson, explain how your experience in Washington and then also as a business owner will aid you as governor of Arkansas.
Well, my experience in Washington sort of allows me to know where the bodies are buried up there. I know what's broken, and I know where to go to help Arkansas to get things fixed and to fight the system that's been so intrusive to us. So I think it would be naive to say that experience is not useful to someone. Now, that's not the basis on which I'm running for governor, but I'm proud of that. The management experience I had in both Homeland Security, head of the DEA, a great law enforcement agency, in Congress, working with great colleagues to balance the budget and lower taxes. But my business experience, you talk about small business. There's nothing smaller than a small law firm with a son and 3 or 4 lawyers that you're meeting the needs of people. That's like the small pharmacy. That's like the small doctor's office. It's small business. And you meet payrolls every day. But it's also the experience in large business. I'm on the director of 2 multi-hundred-million-dollar companies. One a security company, one a technology company. Whenever the economy crashed in 2008, we had to cut our budgets in contrast to the government not cutting their budget.
Thank you. All right, we'll bypass the asking each other questions and we'll get to closing statements.